I'm sitting here in the Chedrei Sefer Torah of the Koisel, and we're trying to understand what is Hachnasas Sefer Torah all about, and when's the best time to do it, and can you do it on Chanukah? We discussed in the last shir about the death of Moshe Rabbeinu. Was it on Shabbos? Was it Erev Shabbos? When did Moshe Rabbeinu write the 13th Sefer Torah? And what really is the source of making Hachnasas Sefer Torah? We could take this one step further. Is that in fact Chazal teach us that Matan Torah was on Shabbos. Matan Torah was on Shabbos, and Matan Torah is another source for making Hachnasas Sefer Torah. The Poskim note something very interesting, that on Yantif we have one tefillah, one nusach of tefillah, one wording of tefillah Ata B'Chatanu, but on Shabbos there are three different tefillahs. If you ever noticed, Shachris, Mincha, and Ma'ariv of Shabbos are all different tefillahs. Why is that? So the explanation is that they represent three different Shabbos, Shabbosos. Friday night is the Shabbos of Horatius. Shabbos day is the Shabbos of Matan Torah, and Shabbos afternoon is the Shabbos Lasad Lavoi, the Shabbos of Mashiach, the time which will be completely Shabbos, Yom Shekulo Shabbos, as Chazal teaches, right? But we see here the Matan Torah was in fact on Shabbos, and this is why we say Shabbos morning, Yismach Moshe to Matan Askalkel. Why do we mention Moshe Rabbeinu? Because Shabbos morning tefillah is parallel to Moshe Rabbeinu's receiving of the Torah on Shabbos. And in fact, the Kadmonim explain, the Maral and others, that this is why there's a special mitzvah of learning Torah on Shabbos, and why there's a special mention of Shabbos in our tefillahs, that this is the perfect time to learn Torah and to mention our tefillahs about Shabbos. And therefore, it's worthy to note that a person who studies Torah on Shabbos will have much more siyata d'shma, much more siyata d'shma in his Torah learning than other days of the week, especially since many people are not learning at that particular time. So based on that, we find a fascinating minhag. It's so interesting when we look around the world today. If you would ask somebody, when is the perfect time not to make Hachnasas Sefer Torah? People would say Shabbos. How can you make enough Sefer Torah? There can't be torches. There can't be these cars that make a lot of noise. Right? But in fact, we find that Minhag Yisrael, for hundreds of years, if not more, was to make Hachnasas Sefer Torah on Shabbos. And therefore, the poskim are filled with tshuvas and responses about making, changing the Erev, extending the Erev. How can we best make the Hachnasas Sefer Torah Shabbos? This was the minhag in Ashkenaz. This was the minhag in Poland. This is the minhag in many Jewish communities throughout the world for hundreds and hundreds of years, was to make the Hachnasas Sefer Torah on Shabbos. And from what we learn now, we can understand that, number one, the root of Hachnasas Sefer Torah is the day that Moshe Rabbeinu passed away from this world, or maybe the day that his mazel left this world, that this was the day that Moshe Rabbeinu inaugurated 13 Sefer Torah. The first Hachnasas Sefer Torah was in fact on Shabbos, and now that we see Matan Torah was also on Shabbos, so this was etched into the fabric of time, as it were, that this is the perfect time to make a Hachnasas Sefer Torah is in fact on Shabbos. This was also the minhag in Eretz Yisrael and all over the world. Right? We find that the minhag was to make a Hachnasas Sefer Torah on Shabbos. Now, the poskim add that it seems that Shavuos, the time of Matan Torah, and also on Simchas Torah, the time when we were Samech with Torah, these were also days when Hachnasas Sefer Torah took place. Right? In the Tshuvas Petzel Chachma, he notes that seemingly it's not a good time to make a Hachnasas Sefer Torah on Yom Tov, not on Shavuos, and not on Simchas Torah. because the Ein Marav and Simcha Simcha. But he knows that in many, many communities, this was in fact the minhag to make a Hachnasas Sefer Torah during those times. So this is certainly not what we're doing today. Certainly today we're not making Hachnasas Sefer Torah on Shabbos or on Shabbos or on Simchas Torah. And we'll have to understand why that is. Perhaps because the minhag developed to do activities which would involve Chil Shabbos. Perhaps we're worried that people are going to be Mechal Shabbos, whatever the reason might be, as Hashem will explain that. But the source of Hachnasas Sefer Torah is coming from Shabbos, from the Shabbos that Moshe Rabbeinu left this world, that he wrote 13 Sifrei Torah, and from the Shabbos of Matan Torah, when Hashem gave the Torah to us. And every Shabbos, in fact, we create the Shabbos of Matan Torah, and that's why we daven Shabbos morning, Yismach Moshe B'Matan Elkai. Every Shabbos we relive this, as the Ramchal explains, that every day of the year is really just a stop in time, revisiting the time that we were there in the past. So every Shabbos, actually, we relive Matan Torah. When you go to Shul and there's Kriyas Torah, that is Matan Torah. The Baal Korah represents the voice of Hashem, and the Moshe, and standing there by the side, the is reminiscent of Matan Torah, the experience we have every Shabbos in Shul, and therefore we should take the experience of Kriyas Torah with the greatest seriousness, because we're actually reliving Matan Torah at that time. But in any event, this was for hundreds, if not more than hundreds of years, for centuries, and for decades, centuries, and even millennium. This was the minhag to make Hachnasas Sefer Torah on Shabbos. We could trace it back to the death of Moshe Rabbeinu on Shabbos, and Matan Torah, which happened on Shabbos. As Hashem, in the next shir, we'll hope to try to understand better what about making Hachnasas Sefer Torah on Chanukah, Amen, Cain, Tia, that's